Hello, I'm Dr. Alberto Violdo, and I'm going to take you into a journey of the world of the shaman. The shamans were the first technicians of the sacred. They understood the workings of heaven and earth. They understood the workings of the world of medicine in a way that we're just beginning to glimpse today with modern physics. For many years, I traveled among the medicine people of the Amazon and the Andes, studying them, learning from them, first as a medical anthropologist and later as a student of the shamans. Before that, I was in a laboratory at San Francisco State University studying the human brain. We were trying to understand how we create psychosomatic health and disease. We knew that we could create psychosomatic disease, but could we also create psychosomatic health? And I remember one day we had been studying the human brain, slicing it and dicing it and staining it and putting it under the microscope. And I realized that I was looking out of the wrong end of the microscope. I had to look to a culture and to a people that had a different worldview from ours, that didn't want to go smaller and smaller, but that went bigger and bigger, even to a notion of time and space that was different from ours. So I shut down my laboratory, I packed my bags, and I went off into the Amazon rainforest to work with people that only had the ability of the mind and of their plant medicine to heal the body and to maintain extraordinary health. At the beginning, I was taking notes and filming and documenting until eventually I became a student of the shamans. I remember one old medicine woman saying to me, Alberto, the first thing that we have to heal is your ignorance. And I said to her, what do you mean, my ignorance? I'm a doctor. It's Dr. Alberto. And she said, no, you have a lot of information, but you have very little wisdom. So we have to heal your ignorance. Later, I understood that the shamans of the Amazon and around the world, because I eventually studied the shamans in Africa, the shamans in Indonesia, in the jungles of the Caribbean, in Brazil, and in the Andean highlands of Peru. And I understood that for the shaman, there's a difference between information and wisdom. That information is being able to tell that water is H2O, but wisdom is being able to make it rain. Information is having a diagnosis, is having an understanding of why you're sick and how you're sick, but wisdom had to do with being able to heal. Wisdom was an act of power. Information was an accumulation of facts that tended to be very disempowering, in effect. Once you have a diagnosis, we're terrified. We live in fear. And we run to the doctors that can offer us surgery or medication, but that don't have the ability to help us heal naturally by ourselves. And this is what the shaman does. Now, today we live in the age of modern medicine, and modern medicine is fantastic. So that if you get bit by a snake, you don't want to go and see your shaman. You want to go into the emergency room. But afterwards, you want to go see your shaman to find out why the snake bit you in the first place. So we have a tradition in the West that is analytic, reductionistic, that puts everything under the microscope, but we forget the big picture. And this is what the shamans have always had. They've had an understanding of the workings of heaven and earth. So that before you could understand the workings of a blade of grass, you had to understand the workings of the cosmos. In contrast, in the West, before we understand the workings of the cosmos, we have to understand the workings of a blade of grass. How a blade of grass turns sunlight into life, how chlorophyll works, how the roots bring up nutrients from inside the earth. And then perhaps when we understand the very small, we can understand the very big. Ours is a very masculine approach. The shamanic, the ancient medicine is a very feminine approach. Ours focuses on killing, burning, and cutting conditions in the body. That's how we treat cancer. The first thing we try to do is to cut it out. And if that doesn't work, then we try to burn it out. And if that doesn't work, then we try to poison it. This is not how shamanic energy medicine works. Shamanic energy medicine is based on the understanding that if you create the conditions for health, that disease then simply goes away by itself. That health is the side effect of the lifestyle that you live, of your connection to nature, of what you put into your body, of how you pray, of how you forgive, of the beliefs that you have, that the universe inevitably proves you right. Remember that every belief that we hold is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that the universe will always prove you right. Unfortunately, today we have a set of collective beliefs that tell us exactly how we're going to die. That 30% of us will die from cancer, 29% from heart disease. That if you live to be 85 years old, that you will have a 50% chance of having diagnosable Alzheimer's. This is a set of collective belief structures that are true and that are real for people who do not dream their world into being. And this is what I train my students in doing, that we can dream our health into being, that we can dream our world into being, that we do not have to become a statistic, that you only become a statistic when you don't take responsibility for your own dream. And this is what the ancient shamans learned to do 50,000 years ago. So this is not a new tradition. This is a very ancient wisdom tradition that today we're able to merge with cutting edge brain science, with the latest understanding of physics. Because the shamans were very careful observers of nature. Shamans have been concerned with healing the body and the mind for millennia. They understood that the body needs help, that there are times that you fall, that you're bit by a snake, that you become sick. And they were first and foremost, they were healers. They were interested in healing disease, but even more important than healing disease, they were concerned with how you could prevent disease in the first place, so you would not have to intervene with a sick body. So they were masters of prevention, and they prevented disease by clearing the imprints of disease from the luminous energy field that surrounds the physical body. We're going to learn that we have an energy field that is an information field that determines how you will age, how you will heal, how you will become sick, how you will die. And that we can upgrade the quality of this information field so that we don't have to live out the illnesses and the family dramas and the lack of self-esteem and the sense of scarcity and the fear that our parents lived in. That we can upgrade the quality of this field so we can begin to write an authentic life story for ourselves and not simply spend our lives fixing the genetics that we inherited from our family or the family dramas that we grew up in. That we can write a truly original story. But to do this, we have to erase the old stories. We have to clear the imprints that we were born with. Now, we understand what these stories are psychologically, but understanding where your sense of scarcity or low self-esteem or predisposition to heart disease, understanding where this comes from will not allow you to fix it. This is simply information. This is not wisdom. the shamanic wisdom of upgrading the contents and the quality of your luminous energy field. That's wisdom. So it's helpful to think of the energy field as the software that informs the body, that informs our DNA. Because our DNA is the hardware. What it does is to manufacture proteins. This is the only thing that DNA does. And it follows the instructions from the software. So if you can imagine yourself downloading version 7.1 of the software, upgrading the quality of the field so that you could then upgrade the quality of the body. So you could then create a body that ages differently, that heals differently, and that dies differently. This is the medicine of the future. The medicine of the future is not pharmacology. It's not pharmaceuticals. In fact, we're living in what I call the age of Pharmageddon, where the great pharmaceutical companies, big pharma, is poisoning us. The future of health is energy medicine. It's upgrading the quality of your field so that you can create health. And that way you do not have to treat disease. We're going to see in the next decade governments becoming bankrupt because they offer free medical services. We don't have the resources to be able to keep this going for much longer because we are exposed today to toxins that never existed in the time of the shamans, that never existed 100 years ago. We're exposed to over 70,000 environmental toxins that never existed before. And I remember when I was a child and the thermometer broke, playing with the mercury in the thermometer. And mercury is a neurotoxin. And then later on, when I needed dental fillings, my dentist put mercury amalgams in my mouth, which leach into the bloodstream. So today we're being exposed to poisons that never existed before. And the shamans of old learned how to eliminate these toxins from the body by unleashing the body's self-healing mechanisms that have become stuck. They've been stuck. We no longer detoxify the body. And we are, in effect, becoming toxic waste dumps. Energy medicine can address this. And this is the healing practice of tomorrow. Because we have exhausted our antibiotic medical weapons. Already we have bacteria that are resistant to every conceivable antibiotic. So the way of the future is to not burn, kill, poison, fight the bacteria, but to come into right relationship with all of nature. So for example, for the shaman, there's no difference between being killed by a jaguar and being killed by a microbe. For us, being killed by a jaguar is bad luck, and being killed by a microbe is an illness. For the shaman, they are exactly the same thing. You have to be in right relationship with jaguars and with microbes. Otherwise, they're both going to be looking at you as lunch.